Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. It's great to see so many of you joining us. And in today's webinar, we're going to be covering the topic of developing healthcare educators, advancing teaching practices worldwide. And that's in relation to our part-time online postgraduate certificate in medical and health education. So this January has seen the International Day of Education, which aims to highlight how quality education is a human right. And as we know, this access to healthcare is also a human right too. Both of these topics are areas that our panel today are passionate about, and providing access to a quality education and developing healthcare educators to advance their teaching practices and inspire other healthcare professionals to deliver the best quality healthcare across the world. So during today's session, we're going to start by introducing ourselves, and I'm then going to provide you with a brief introduction to medical health education course. This is going to give you a bit more context as we go into our panel discussion. From there, we will also have our question and answer open, and so you'll be able to submit your questions to the panel, and we'll come to this at the end of the discussion too. We really do actively encourage you to join in with our discussion today, so please get involved in any way you can. I'll then also provide you with a little bit of information about the entry requirements for the course and fees and funding information at the end of today's session, and follow up with my contact details. So I'm about to hand over to everyone to introduce themselves, but whilst we're doing that, can you please use the chat function to let us know a little about yourselves as well? So your name, your job, where you're joining us from, and also whether you've worked in healthcare setting outside of the UK. I'm now going to hand over to Dianne to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. I'm Dianne Burns. I'm the Programme Director of this PGCert in Medical and Health Education. I'm a Senior Lecturer in the Division of Nursing, Midwifery and Social Work and the Department of Medical Education. Great to see so many of you, and I'll hand over now. I'm looking down my screen, so perhaps Victoria next for her to introduce herself. Victoria, you're on mute. That will be on my gravestone too.
Oh, sorry, everyone. Thank you so much, Diane. Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Uka, and I'm a final year PhD student in the Division of Nursing, Midwifery, and Social Work. And I'm a GT on this course, so happy to be interacting with you today.
And Jess?
Hi there, I'm Jess Grundy. I'm a GP by background, and I'm a unit lead on this medical and health education PGCert. My special area of interest is health professional education and development.
And last but not least, Bip.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bip Choudhury. I'm a medically qualified reader in anatomy. I'm the Deputy Programme Director for this course, and I also lead on the assessments. Nice to see you all.
Thank you very much, everyone, for introducing yourself. And for anyone who I've not been in contact with before, I am Hazel, and I am one of the course advisors here at the University of Manchester. And I'm here to support prospective students who are considering studying medical and health education with us, and basically making that decision-making and application process as straightforward for you as possible. So we're going to carry on with today's presentation. I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of what medical and health education is. So it is a postgraduate certificate, so that is 60 credits of a postgraduate qualification. And there's also the opportunity to build that qualification through individual units. The postgraduate certificate itself is made up of 3 individual units that we will talk about in a little bit more detail in just a moment. It takes 12 months to study, and it's a part-time and online course, meaning that you will work through it at your own pace, working towards specific deadlines throughout the programme. And it is 100% coursework-based assessments, which means that because we welcome a global cohort, we don't have to worry about trying to schedule an exam that suits time zones across the world, but also we find that it works significantly better for those people who are working whilst they are studying, which in this course is the vast majority of our students. And what's wonderful about this course as well is the idea is you can study at a time that suits you and consolidate your learning through things like tutorials and on discussion boards. So you've both got the flexibility of online study and the chance to come together and meet your academic tutors and your peers who are studying the course with you. And I know that's something we're going to talk a little bit more about later today. So the course, as I mentioned before, is built of 3 20-credit units, which start in September, November and February. And you will begin by understanding the theory of effective practice and teaching and learning and assessment. And it gives you the opportunity to reflect on your own role and begin developing innovative approaches during the first unit of the Reflective Educator. Unit 2, which is the art and science of teaching, is where you're going to start exploring curriculum principles about design and development, thinking about your own learning more methodically, and applying this to your own experiences, and it will give you the chance as well to demonstrate your own teaching style. And then the final unit, Unit 3, Pass or Fail, Who Decides, is based around the current assessment practices, the role of assessment in quality assurance, evaluation, and the importance of feedback. So that's really just a whistle-stop tour of the course. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and bring in our panel to discuss our topic in a bit more detail.
Thanks, Hazel. We're hoping that that might have just piqued your interest into the course a little bit, but we're going to delve a little bit deeper now into some of the issues and some of the concepts that we really focus in on when we're looking through the materials, and indeed when we've created the course, this particular course. So Jess, I'd like to ask you initially, first of all, we've used a transdisciplinary approach to developing and designing this program, haven't we? Why do you think that it's really important for us to use this team of multidisciplinary professionals and welcome students from lots of different professions and fields?
Yeah, thanks, Dianne. So I think I was one of the core people at the start of this program, and one of the key principles Dianne Bip really proud to promote from the off has been this multi-professional approach. And that is so important for the current NHS. Any of us working in NHS and social care, we know that the NHS is hoping to move towards a multi-professional approach. And we hope that this course which has a really strong ethos of that approach, helps us understand different disciplines, the different approaches. And actually the learning that we do together is so powerful. We can share challenges and solutions, when we're talking about teaching and learning, but this also promotes that understanding beyond the classroom, beyond our course. And I think that multi-professional understanding really then helps filter through to promote that culture within the workplace, which we know not only makes for a happier workforce, but also has implications for patient safety. So I think that's been a really key and distinctive part of our programme that I'm really proud of. And it just makes for such interesting conversations and learning, not only for participants, but also for us. We're always learning as faculty as well, which I think is another strength, that we've all got that open mind to learn from each other.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. I mean, it really does speak volumes, doesn't it? The way that we've pulled the programme together with people teaching on it from multidisciplines, and also the student cohort, the participants that come. I'm thinking about that in terms of a more global cohort, Victoria. What do you think that brings in terms of cultural and inclusivity competence? How does the programme prepare educators to address some of those unique needs of those underserved populations globally?
Thank you so much, Dianne. The MHE program, for me, equips, healthcare educators with the knowledge and tools, to address global disparities in education, in healthcare delivery, especially, from underserved population, as I am from an underserved population myself. And so, like the reflective education unit that Hassel mentioned while she was introducing, we have the fosters reflective practice, and so encourages educators to critically examine their own biases and teaching approaches. And so this self-awareness is crucial for creating, culturally sensitive and inclusive learning environment tailored to the needs of, the populations that we serve, including underserved populations. And additionally, like still in the unit, it emphasizes understanding of the learner's social and cultural context, and that helps educators to design, their teaching strategies that are relevant to the unique challenges faced by, these populations. As an integral part of the program, we have community spaces, it's like we call it discussion board. It provides for collaborative, space for students to share their insight, reflect on their learning, on the learning material, and that allows, the students to, they can discuss how the cultural and professional context influence their healthcare education. And by engaging in these conversations, students gain insight, they have a deeper understanding of the diverse perspectives, which is key in addressing, global disparities. Even the breakout rooms that we have during tutorials, they complement this because they offer, a smaller focused discussions, sessions where students can interact more personally. They can also share their experiences and develop practical solutions collaboratively. So looking at my personal experience, transitioning from, teaching to Nigeria, in Nigeria, and coming to the engaging learners in the UK, I think that all of this has been, integral in empowering and making me make meaningful impact, in my teaching. And so I think that with the way the program is structured, and it's all inclusive. Apart from these tools that are available, that I've mentioned, the element itself, looking at the teaching theories and everything, all of it, portrays inclusivity. By the time you start to learn about, the learner's context, understanding the learner's needs, and using theoretical assumptions to base your teaching on, to design your teaching strategy, I think that will meet the needs of the diverse population that we are serving as educators.
Thank you, Victoria. I must admit, it was a real key feature when we were designing the programme that we really wanted to make sure that we were developing participants and ourselves cultural competence, and that there's an awareness of different cultural approaches to education. What would you think the benefits that brings, Jess, in terms of getting exposure to other cultural approaches to education?
Yes, so thank you. So as well as that multi-professional approach, as we've already alluded to, we also have a global cohort, and it's absolutely amazing to have that expertise to share amongst ourselves. It's such a privilege to hear from people from cultures outside your own, and I think everyone feels that privilege. And actually, in other roles, I've worked in other countries teaching the teachers of medical students. And actually, I've discovered that we share more challenges than we have differences. And actually, a lot of things that, are challenges, we have shared experience and different experience of solutions. And I think that really helps to, again, promote that understanding that I spoke about earlier. It also helps to share brilliant ideas to these challenges. It helps build a community of practice globally of high quality healthcare educators, which is what we're in the business of trying to promote.
Oh, thank you, Jess. Of course, there are benefits and challenges, aren't there, to the way that the course is delivered in terms of it's highly flexible and synchronous and, well, asynchronous delivery. The types of activities that we use to allow people to engage more fully with the learning materials and with each other. Bip, over to you. Do you think there are benefits to learning both in real time through the activities like tutorials and in your own time? So when we say synchronous, we mean in that real time meeting up and getting the opportunity to discuss with each other through various mechanisms, and of course asynchronous, so where people might access the learning materials in their own time outside of those in time face-to-face discussion activities.
Well, thank you, Dianne. I think for sure that building in flexibility into any program of study is beneficial for the learners in helping them achieve their goals. So, as we've alluded to already, our learners are very busy healthcare practitioners, as well as scientists who are undertaking PhDs, etc. So they already have a full-time job. Aside from their jobs, they have other personal commitments as well. On top of that, they've dedicated themselves to this program of study with us. So I think it's really important to be flexible. So we offer asynchronous learning activities. So our learning materials are delivered through our own virtual learning environment at the University of Manchester. So participants can work their way through those. We have, as Victoria's already said, we offer a wide range of reading materials that participants can undertake, not only from the West, but also from other regions around the globe that our learners can engage with. We have lots of interactivities online, and doing all of these things in your own time is helpful for the learner. They can pick the time and place that suits them to undertake all of this learning. So they're not forced into a particular time, a particular place to do their learning, whilst they're juggling all these hundreds of other plates as well. So the asynchronous activities, I think, are a real strength of our course. The synchronous time that we have together as well is really special. Of course, our learners are very busy, but those that can attend when we get together, it's marvellous to get people from across the healthcare spectrum. Nurses, dentists, medics, PAs, pharmacists, our scientists, you name them. We come together in that one space and we start to build an amazing community of practice. Not everybody can always make it every week, but that's okay. Whenever they're able to plug in with us, we learn so much from one another. Those synchronous activities are very, very valuable. So I think offering that flexibility, just coming back to your original question, offering that flexibility, I think, is a real strength of our programme.
Oh, thank you, Bip. You mentioned there about the importance of building that international network of peers and a global community of practice. I'm going to open this up to the other panel members now, and just to get some impressions on what you think the value is of us being able to do that, because that's something that's quite unique to this program, isn't it? Building that international network. What do you think the values are in terms of the program in relation to this? Jess, Victoria, or Bip, whoever.
If it's okay, I might just start off, if that's all right with Jess and Victoria. I've learnt an enormous amount from our international colleagues. I think maybe I took it for granted that actually we all have the same learning environments growing up. And of course we don't. So often when my learners come to me, whether it's undergrads or postgrads, I think maybe in the past I used to think, well, their learning experience most likely was very similar to mine. And collaborating with our international colleagues has taught me that absolutely is not the case. And that's marvellous, because now I can see where they're coming from when they come into any learning environment.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Bip, is that even as the teaching team, we gain access to a diverse range of perspectives, as do our participants, don't we? And we learn about their experiences, they share resources, and expanding our knowledge base and theirs in that way, understanding what best practice approaches are within particular subject areas, and facilitating those much needed connections and conversations opens doors to professional opportunities we probably wouldn't have had, but also helps us establish these meaningful personal connections, doesn't it, with our participants across the globe, as well as academic colleagues as well. So I completely agree with you there. Victoria, Jess, have you got anything to add?
Oh, yes, just like Bip has said, and you've said, interacting with people from globally different and different countries, different nationalities, I think it's been wonderful on the program because just like you say, we gain insight from and look at the challenges that that we face while teaching, while engaging learners in our different contexts, and we try to collaboratively, profess solutions to this, using those community spaces that we have, and even more closely, more personally during, the breakout rooms. So I think it's really been wonderful interacting with, educators from different, places globally. And the program is designed, the element is designed to capture all these differences, in our teaching. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Jess, have you got anything to add?
I think that's all been said now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell, I think, that we really enjoy our job, and the way that we approach this as the program team, but also with our participants, is that we have a collective approach to critical thinking and problem solving, particularly within the synchronous or the face-to-face tutorials, where we can think about creative and innovative solutions to the challenges that we face collectively, which obviously would lead in the future to more effective methods and adoption of better outcomes. So yeah, the sum is much greater than what the program is. What comes out of it, this holistic approach, we get so much more out of it, and I think the participants do too. So we're wondering whether we've got any questions from the audience, Hazel.
So we haven't had anything come through yet, but as we said, like to everyone watching, please don't be shy. Like we do absolutely actively encourage you to ask questions. You can pop something into the chat, or there is the Q&A function as well. And please use either to share your own experiences and to ask any questions you have for our panel.
Yeah, so we've had two people add to the chat already. So Anam, a GP by background, and Guju, I hope I've pronounced that rightly, a social worker. So it's great to see that we're attracting wider participants potentially, to really reflect that multidisciplinary approach. But yes, please do put some questions in your. Okay, so are we buddied up with lecturers or colleagues in this programme? Not particularly buddied up, but you are allocated into small groups of participants where you have one lecturer allocated to that small group. So within that small group, there are opportunities to discuss things. We call it asynchronously, but using discussion boards, you do get access to one named lecturer. But generally, our approach to the programme is very, very team orientated. We have speakers coming in, leading different elements of the programme. We have a core team that deliver those tutorials, etc. But yeah, not necessarily buddied up, but can develop close relationships with colleagues and participants of the programme. And then Fatima's asking, how many hours are learners expected to interact on average each week? Two types of interaction. The interaction within the tutorials is 1 hour a week. So coming along to a tutorial webinar that's set on a Monday, usually around the lunchtime break, so between 1 and 2, that would be the time to come along actively in the moment and engage. But outside of that, interacting with the learning materials online, on average about 20 hours a week, which sounds quite a lot, doesn't it, when you are actively working, maybe full-time in a healthcare environment. But I can't stress that enough, is that to get the most out of this program, those 20 hours, engaging with the materials and more critically reflecting on what that means in terms of your own practice is really crucial and important.
Yeah, we've got some questions coming in on the Q&A as well. So we've got one asking about, is the programme applicable to all countries? This is from Razan, who is based in Sudan.
Bip, do you want to respond? I'm sick of hearing my voice and it's going at the moment.
Of course, of course. Thank you very much for your question, Razan. Yes, of course it is. This is a global program for anybody who's interested in learning about or contributing to the conversation about healthcare professions education. Indeed, we've had participants from Australia, from Malaysia, from the Americas. It's open to everybody. It doesn't exclude anybody at all. I hope that answers your question.
And then we've got another question here that's from Anam, which is, how many assessments are there during the course?
I might take this one as lead for assessments. So currently, because we have 3 modules, we have a lovely range of assessments and different assessment styles. So for the reflective educator, we write, we ask people to write an academic blog. For the art and science of teaching, we ask them to produce a teaching video with an audience and to produce some tutor notes. And then for our final unit, pass or fail, who decides? We ask them to reflect on and write about assessment strategies, etc. So I suppose per module, there's one summative assignment. So that's the summative assignment that gets marked and the mark goes forward on the database. But throughout the module, there are opportunities for formative assessment. So you can put down your thoughts to the summative question and get feedback from staff members. So there's lots of help along the way. But in terms of how many assessments, there's one final assessment per module.
Oh, thank you, Bip. And I think that beautiful answer has answered some of the other questions in the chat as well around what are the course modules for the course, which you've described. And somebody's asking, I think it's Priscilla, are we to be an educator or in a teaching role to be accepted? That's not a requirement, but it is really helpful if you're in that role already. So when you're starting to think about reflecting on your role as a teacher, we would expect that you'd have had some experience, but you might be really at the beginning of that journey. But when you come into some of the other units where you're demonstrating your skills in teaching and thinking about assessment strategies and frameworks, then it helps to have some experience. It's not a necessity, but it certainly helps. So if you're right at the beginning of your journey, when you're thinking about getting into education, it'd certainly raise your knowledge and understanding of the application of that, even if you're not able to apply that already. But for the art and science of teaching, we do ask you to produce a video of yourself teaching. So there'd have to be some potential for you to be able to demonstrate that. And then Felix is asking if there's a physical meeting with the students. That would be very difficult for us, Felix, in respect to the fact that this is a global cohort. So to stop us having to fly here, there and everywhere to meet with students, that is a limitation for us. But physical in terms of online, yes, you get the opportunity to meet with us, just like we're doing now in an online space, but not particularly on campus. There's nothing to stop you visiting campus. You are classed when you register on the course as a student at the University of Manchester, but there are no scheduled appointments with tutors on campus. So that's just to help facilitate people that are studying across the world with us, or you know, people that can't get to campus for whatever reason. Hope that helps.
We've got another one in the Q&A as well. So Anna, I think we've probably covered most of yours about not actively teaching at the moment, but if there's anything else you wanted to ask about that, then please do let us know. And then we have another question as well, which is somebody who works in the NHS as a surgical registrar and says usually we don't take a lunch break at that time to attend meetings. Would that affect them being able to take part in the programme?
Not at all. I mean, it's very common for our participants not to be able to attend on one given day or time. I mean, obviously, you're going to benefit much more if you were to be able to arrange to attend those synchronous or face-to-face online tutorials. But we do record all of the summary of the tutorials, probably not the discussions that take place in the smaller groups, but certainly the context and the content of those tutorials are recorded, and there is opportunity to engage asynchronously or out of that time zone on the follow-up discussion boards from the tutorials. So you shouldn't be disadvantaged in any way other than the fact that if you don't attend any, you won't get the opportunity to discuss with colleagues, your peers, around some of the challenges that are being faced, etc. So it can be a very lonely space, I think, but certainly doesn't impede your ability to progress on the course or to do very well with the assignments. It's just that to get the most out of the course, that meeting to discuss with peers and colleagues is really valuable. The sharing of ideas and challenges almost. What do you think, Jess, Bip?
Yeah, I would agree. It's not the end of the world, but it's highly recommended. It's the, your course team are at that tutorial. But as Dan said, it's not the end of the world if you can't, and we purposely design the course so that it won't be, you won't be at a disadvantage, because there are other ways, as Dan's outlined, for you to interact with us. You can watch the recording, you can talk with us on discussion boards. So just to reiterate all of that, really, that you wouldn't be at a disadvantage. It's just that we really enjoy seeing you. So we would highly recommend it because we enjoy it. We enjoy that chat that we have and that connection with you. And we hope you'd enjoy it as well, but it wouldn't disadvantage you.
Yeah, thank you, Jess.
Yeah, only to add on to that, you might be watching the recording back and think, oh no, I wanted to say something, and I wanted to add something to that. I wanted to raise a question to that. And obviously that's not possible. What's really lovely is that our tutorials take place on the same day and at the same time for each of our modules. So usually people can plan ahead. It's not always possible, as we've said, but if you are able to plan ahead, then be assured we keep the day and the time the same so that people can attend wherever possible.
Yeah, thank you, Bip. That's a really important point, I think, is that, yeah, they take place between 1 and 2 every Monday. And, if you're a busy NHS worker or you're busy in another healthcare setting, then sometimes you can't make that time. But if you know that it's that same time every week, and certainly if you're being sponsored by your employer, it'd be good to negotiate that time, because yeah, I think that there's something really valuable in being able to discuss ideas and concepts, isn't there, with peers and colleagues and tutors, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have another question come in. I think this is the last of ones that people have submitted at the moment. So if there is anything else that anyone wants to ask, please do. Because after this question, otherwise we'll be about to move on to the next section. But somebody has asked, is there scope to carry on and complete a master's after completing the postgraduate certificate?
Great question. There is, but not at the University of Manchester. So we are in the process of developing the programme to a PG Dip and Masters, but I can't see that happening within the next 5 years. So as things stand at the minute, you can become a member of the Academy of Medical Educators. You can perhaps consider submitting an application for fellowship with the Advanced HE. But if you want to progress to a PG Dip or a Masters in Medical Education, you can APEL or use the credits that you've got from your PGCert at the University of Manchester and use that to apply to another university, and you will get those credits awarded. So this programme is worth 60 credits at PGT level, and then you'd need to get another 60 credits at PG Dip and another 60 credits at Masters level, so another further 2 years to actually come out with a Masters or a PG Dip. So you can use the credits that you've got and transfer them somewhere else and trade them in, probably that's the word, trade them in and continue your studies, but not with us. There are other universities in the UK, I think, that allow people to do a PG Dip and Masters.
Okay, and I think that brings us to the end of the questions that people have asked during the session. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen, and I'm just going to kind of talk through the entry requirements for the course if anyone's interested, and give you a bit more information about fees and funding and how to get in touch with us as well if you do have any more questions. There is the chat will remain open, so please do, if there's still things you want to discuss, then please do continue to submit things during that as well. Okay, so the entry requirements for the course, we require a primary medical degree or another registered healthcare or social work professional qualification. Or if you come from a slightly different background, then an upper second class honours degree, we call it a 2-1 here in the UK, or the overseas equivalent in a subject that's allied to medical or health education, so nursing, biosciences, psychology, or physician associates. That's just a few examples. If you fall outside of that, doesn't necessarily mean we wouldn't consider an application from you, and I'd encourage you to get in contact with me to discuss it further if you would like to. And if English is not your first language, then we would require evidence of English to an equivalent of the 6.5 overall in the IELTS with no less than 6 in writing. Now, we don't want English language to be a barrier to anyone applying, and we do accept a variety of equivalent qualifications as well. So that can be things like the that could be things like Pearson test. It could be things like the TEFL English test. We also accept the OET, Occupational English test, that the NHS use as well. And so you can use those as equivalencies as well. And if you do want to discuss that in any more detail, then do let me know. And please also be reassured, we don't ask for an English test unless we absolutely need one. And if you don't have an English test prior to starting the course as well, then this is something our admissions team can support you with after applying. And there is there's the link there to apply now, and I will also paste that into the I'll also paste some key contact details into the chat as well for everyone to be able to see. And then on to fees and funding as well. So for September 2025, tuition fees are £5,000 for the postgraduate certificate, or £1,667 for the CPD. So that's one individual unit. And you've got the opportunity as well with the postgraduate certificate to pay in 3 individual instalments. For this course as well, a lot of our students are sponsored by their employers, and there are ways that you can upload a sponsor letter after you apply. Or if you need more information from us as well, you can contact me and I can help you to get that information that you need about the course to make an application for funding from your employer really strong. For students who are based with the NHS or who might be alumni of the University of Manchester as well, we do have some discounts available, 10% or between 5 and 10% as well for alumni. And if you want to get a bit more information about the eligibility criteria for those, I do encourage you to get in contact with me today. Study online at manchester.ac.uk. So if there are any more questions about that, because those tend to be quite specific to individual circumstances, I'd recommend us having a separate discussion afterwards, rather than putting something like that in the chat as well.
Hazel, is it worth reminding people too is that they don't need to complete the full PGCert? So if they wanted to come along and just undertake one unit, they're able to do that.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
do recommend that sometimes for people that don't quite meet the eligibility criteria. So people that haven't studied at master's level before, perhaps, or haven't got a degree. Sometimes what we would recommend is that they take one unit to see how they go, and then they can either just take the credits for that unit, or they can progress on and swap pathways to complete the full PGCert.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess this is one of the strengths with the flexibility of the course as well, is that it is entirely possible for you to do that. And based on your own individual circumstances as well, you might want to test the time commitment and things like that too. Or you might only be able to get funding at the moment for one CPD unit, want to do that and see if you can get funding at a later stage as well. So there are definitely a lot of flexible options available to you. And I would really, really encourage you as well that if you aren't sure, if you've got any questions, we are all here to help. So please do get in contact with us. I'm happy to speak to anyone who watching today who has questions about the course, like one-to-one, have a bit of a discussion about your individual circumstances, talked about the course in a little bit more detail. If you've got questions that I don't have the answer to, I can help you to get the answers to those questions as well. So I would really, really encourage you to do that as well. And that actually brings us to the end of today's session. So I just want to say a really big thank you to everyone who's attended, participated, asked their questions, as well as to our panel who've taken the time out of their busy days as well today to join us. And if there are any more questions, please let us know in the chat. We'll be here a couple moments more. But that concludes today's session. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.